If this touched Facebook, I'm gone. She was just 23 years old, a mother of 3 young children, loved, admired, and yet silently drowning. Her name was Zine Nookie Sylvester. Living in Ohio, she had built a life full of smiles and shared moments. On her Facebook page, she posted happy pictures of her kids, their milestones, laughter, and family. But something was changing. On September 23, 2025, the day her voice went silent forever. In the hours before, she posted a message so raw and direct it would shake thousands of strangers. My favorite colors are pink and black. I want my sons in all pink. Real men wear pink, and they will be real men. I don't know where I am, but I know I was tired. I love everyone who loved me. I made it to 23 with 3 kids. If this touched Facebook, I'm gone. We open tonight here at True Crime 911 with a question. What happened to Zine Nookie Sylvester? And why did no one see it coming? Before we go any further, I've got to address this. I noticed that 75% of you watching right now aren't subscribed. If you walk away now, this message, her life, could disappear like so many do. Don't let it vanish. Hit subscribe now or go ahead and drop in the comments why you think this story doesn't deserve to be heard. Because what Nookie posted hours before her death would haunt everyone who read it. Meet 23-year-old Zine Nookie Sylvester, a name many of us didn't know, but one whose life touched the lives of 3 little children, a family, and a small community in Ohio. Born and raised in Toledo, she carried the warmth of a sister, the strength of a mother, the laughter of a friend. On her social media feeds, Zine appeared radiant. Snapshots of her and her children, a 6-year-old, a 1-year-old, and an infant just 3 months old, filled her timeline. She posted birthday wishes, loving messages for her kids, cute matching outfit shots, joy overflowing. But behind those pictures, the daily balancing act weighed heavy. Diapers, work, expectations, motherhood in full swing, day after exhausting day. Yet her posts rarely showed that fatigue. The filters hid the strain. Viewers saw her smile, but not always the tremble beneath it. She looked like she was thriving, but exhaustion doesn't always show on the outside. And yet, in the weeks before her death, the tone of her posts began to change. A storm was coming. A storm no one noticed. By early September of 2025, something in Zine Nookie Sylvester's tone began to shift. The cheerful updates, the laughter-filled posts about her kids, the playful captions, they began to fade, replaced with something quieter and heavier. At first, it looked like exhaustion, the kind that any parent could understand. Raising 3 small children is hard. Doing it mostly alone? That's beyond exhausting. Her oldest was only 6, her middle child just learning to walk, and her youngest only a few months old. Zine was 23, just 23. Her friends and family knew her as the girl who always smiled, always helped, always said, "I'm fine." But as weeks went by, the joy in her words began to thin out. It's something that's easy to miss until you look back. When her sentences grew shorter, her emojis disappeared, and the color in her posts slowly drained away. On her Facebook page, her energy had always been infectious. There were posts about her boys' first days at school, little milestones, birthday parties, laughter in the background of every photo. But by late September, that light, the one that drew people in, began to flicker. Her posts turned more reflective, honest, painfully honest. She wrote one message that many of her followers scrolled past without thinking twice. Experts say postpartum depression affects roughly 1 in 8 mothers in the U.S. But behind that statistic are faces, real people, real mothers, who smile through the pain until they can't anymore. And when that depression goes untreated, it turns into something darker, something that whispers, "You can't do this anymore," even as the world praises you for being strong. For young mothers like Zion, that pressure multiplies. You're expected to love being a mom, to hold it together, to never crack under the weight. But behind closed doors, it's quiet. Too quiet. There's no one there to listen when the tears come. Her friends started to notice she was pulling away. Calls went unanswered. Messages left on read. The kind of silence that creeps in slowly, until one day you realize it's been weeks since you've actually heard her laugh. She stopped posting selfies, stopped tagging her friends. The girl who once filled people's timelines with energy began to disappear from it. One friend later said it felt like she was slipping out of sight, like she was still there, but not really there anymore. Then came the late-night posts, the kind written in the quiet hours when the kids are asleep and your mind finally speaks freely. Posts about being tired, lost, drained. The kind of messages that seem harmless when you read them in passing, until you know how it ends. Depression doesn't always whisper. Sometimes it screams, just in a language no one understands. And the truth is, no one heard her scream. Behind the smiles, behind the love for her kids, behind the pictures that looked perfect, Zion was unraveling in silence. She was fighting a battle invisible to everyone who loved her, a battle that social media filters can't show, and family photos can't explain. Every mother knows that kind of exhaustion, the bone-deep fatigue that makes you want to cry in the bathroom for 5 minutes just to breathe. But for Zion, it wasn't just about sleepless nights or endless routines. It was about the pressure to stay strong for everyone else when she didn't even have the strength to keep going for herself. One night, she scrolled through her phone. Her feed was filled with friends sharing pictures of their kids, their meals, their achievements. She had the same, but none of it felt real anymore. The smiles she once wore so easily now felt like a mask she couldn't take off. People who followed her saw her updates, but they didn't see her. They liked her photos, but they didn't notice the pain hiding in her captions. They saw the mom of 3, not the young woman gasping for air beneath that title. Then slowly, she stopped replying altogether. Texts from friends left unanswered. Messages opened, then ignored. The silence grew louder. If anyone had called her one more time, checked in one more time, maybe it would have made a difference. Maybe. But we'll never know. Because on September 23rd, 2025, her voice disappeared from the world. She made one final post, a message that would stop people in their tracks. My favorite colors are pink and black. I want my sons in all pink. Real men wear pink. I don't know where I am, but I know I was tired. I love everyone who loved me. I made it to 23 with 3 kids. If this touched Facebook, I'm gone. It wasn't a cry for attention. It wasn't a warning shot. It was her goodbye. She posted it, and then she was gone. If you can watch this and still think it couldn't happen to someone you know, think again. This isn't just another story. This is a reminder that depression hides in plain sight, that exhaustion looks like a smile, that pain often wears makeup. 75% of you watching right now aren't subscribed.
That means 75% of you could walk away from this story and forget her name by tomorrow. But that's how people like Zion disappear, quietly, unnoticed. Subscribe to True Crime 911 because tomorrow's story could be about someone on your timeline. And if you don't, then go ahead, comment below and tell us why you think you're immune to tragedies like this. Because what Zion Nucky Sylvester posted that morning wasn't a call for help. It was a message the world didn't understand until it was far too late.
When Zian Nucky Sylvester's post went live, it was just another morning on Facebook. Most people scrolled past it like they would any other status, until the words began to sink in. If this touched Facebook, I'm gone. Within minutes, her post started getting shared, dozens of comments, then hundreds. Friends tagged each other, desperate to make sure someone had seen it, someone who could check on her. Her inbox filled up with messages. "Girl, what do you mean by this? Please tell me this isn't what I think it is. Call me right now." But there was no reply. Someone finally called 911. A few minutes later, another person did the same. The panic spread through Elyria, Ohio, like a ripple. People jumped in their cars, trying to reach her apartment before it was too late. But by the time officers arrived, it was. The scene was quiet. Too quiet. Police tape fluttered in the wind as officers went in and out of the small home where Nucky had lived with her children. The children were safe, physically unharmed, but the emotional scar that moment left would never fade. Then came the words that changed everything. She's gone. Her death was confirmed that same morning, just hours after her final post, the post that so many thought was a Facebook vent. Nucky had taken her own life. The sound in the room faded to silence, the kind of silence that sinks deep into the chest and doesn't leave. Family members arrived at the scene. Confusion, heartbreak, disbelief. Her mother broke down in the driveway. Her sister screamed her name through tears. "We thought she was okay," one family member said later. "She always said she was fine." It was a phrase everyone recognized. "I'm fine." 3 words that have become the mask for 1,000 silent struggles. Within hours, news of her passing began to circulate online. Screens lit up across Ohio and beyond. "Rest easy, Nucky. You were too good for this world. We failed her. She deserved more help." Her name trended locally as hundreds of people posted photos, videos, and tributes. Everyone had a memory. Everyone had something kind to say. But every comment carried the same undertone: guilt. They had seen the signs. They had read her words. They had scrolled right past them. One of her friends wrote, "We always said, check on your strong friends, but we never really did. And now it's too late." The heartbreak was overwhelming. Her Facebook profile became a digital memorial, flooded with hearts, prayers, and candle emojis. But beneath all the sympathy was one question no one could answer. How did no one notice sooner? Because that's what happens when the internet becomes our therapy. We type into a void, hoping someone sees us, but no one really does. And by the time people realize it's serious, it's already over. The police investigation confirmed what everyone feared. It wasn't foul play. It wasn't a mystery. It was pain, quiet, invisible, and fatal. Her family gathered at the hospital later that day, each face blank with disbelief. She was planning her daughter's birthday, her cousin said. She just bought Halloween costumes for the kids. She was supposed to come to dinner this weekend. Those words, "supposed to," became an echo in every conversation. The hardest part for her loved ones wasn't just losing her. It was realizing that the world had seen her goodbye in real time, and no one understood what it meant until it was too late. If you ever scroll past someone's cry for help again, remember Zian Nucky Sylvester. She wasn't a headline. She wasn't a story. She was a mother, a daughter, a friend, posting her last words to a timeline filled with people she thought might care. She was posting for everyone,
and no one was listening. If you can hear this and not feel something, ask yourself why, because that's how it starts, with apathy. Subscribe to True Crime 911 so you never forget the faces behind the silence. And if you still think stories like this are just content, then go ahead, tell us in the comments why empathy isn't worth your click.
Because while the world was mourning Nucky, something else was beginning, a much larger conversation, one that went beyond her death, beyond her town, beyond the tragedy. Because her story doesn't end with her death. It begins with every message, every post, and every cry we've all ignored. The days following Zine Nucky Sylvester's death felt heavy, not just in Elyria, Ohio, but across every timeline that had shared her final words. For a moment, the world paused. Her name became a symbol, a reminder of the pain we scroll past every single day. But just like every viral tragedy, the noise began to fade. The posts slowed down. The hashtags stopped trending. And once again, silence took over. But for her family, and especially her 3 young children, that silence wasn't just quiet, it was deafening. Zine's story didn't begin on the day she died. It began the day she learned to hide her pain, the day she smiled when she wanted to scream, the day she convinced herself that asking for help made her weak. And she wasn't alone. Every year, thousands of young mothers across the United States experience postpartum depression. According to the CDC, about 1 in 8 mothers report symptoms: sadness, hopelessness, overwhelming fatigue. But experts say that number is likely much higher, because most never say a word. They're told to be grateful, to be strong, to enjoy motherhood. So they post pictures that look perfect, while inside they're breaking. Zine was one of them. Social media makes it easy to hide what's real. We curate the smiles, the outfits, the good moments, and bury the rest. For every happy post, there's a sleepless night behind it. For every selfie, a tear-stained face just out of frame. Zine's timeline was full of light, birthday balloons, matching outfits, big smiles. You could scroll for hours and never see the pain. But that's how depression works. It hides in plain sight. Mental health experts have long warned that social media creates a dangerous illusion. It rewards perfection and punishes vulnerability. When you're a young mom trying to hold everything together, you start to believe that asking for help means you failed. You start performing instead of living. And when the applause stops, you're left alone with your thoughts. Zine's tragedy is not just one story. It's a mirror, a reflection of every person who says, "I'll check on her later." Of every strong friend who suffers in silence because they don't want to be a burden. Her friends remember her laugh, loud, contagious, the kind that filled a room. They remember how much she loved her kids, how she called them her little blessings. And that's the hardest part to reconcile. She loved her life, but love alone couldn't drown out the exhaustion, the loneliness, the invisible weight she carried. One family member said it best: she smiled for her kids until she couldn't anymore. And that's the part that breaks you. Because that smile, the one we saw in every photo, it was heavy. It carried every sleepless night, every unpaid bill, every moment she doubted herself. It was the smile of a woman holding her world together with shaking hands. The ripple effect of her story still lingers. Mental health advocates across Ohio began using her case as a rallying point, a call to stop overlooking young mothers, to stop normalizing exhaustion as strength, to start listening before it's too late. But how many people really changed? How many of us went right back to scrolling, right back to ignoring the signs? If you think you'd notice when someone you love is slipping away, you're wrong. It doesn't look like crying every day. It looks like distance, silence,
politeness. It looks like, "I'm fine." Subscribe to True Crime 911, because the next story we tell could be the one you wished you'd seen sooner.
Because somewhere out there, another mother is smiling through the same pain Zian once carried. Another woman is hiding her exhaustion behind filters and captions. Another cry for help is being buried under likes. And for her 3 children left behind, the question remains: who will remember their mother's story? Zian Nucky Sylvester, a name that still echoes in the hearts of everyone who knew her, and now in the minds of all who've heard her story. She was more than a headline, more than a viral post. She was a mother who loved fiercely, but hurt quietly. Her last words weren't written for attention. They weren't meant to shock the world. They were a warning, one that too many of us will ignore until it's too late. My favorite colors are pink and black. I want my sons in all pink. Real men wear pink. I don't know where I am, but I know I was tired. I love everyone who loved me. I made it to 23 with 3 kids. If this touched Facebook, I'm gone. In her silence, she spoke for countless others who can't find the words. And maybe, just maybe, hearing her story will make someone stop and listen. If you or someone you know is struggling, please reach out. You are not alone. You are never alone. Before you go, I want you to understand something. It takes days, sometimes weeks, to put together a story like this, to research, to verify, to make sure we tell it right. Because these aren't just cases, these are lives, these are people who mattered. And yet over 70% of the people watching this won't hit subscribe. Maybe they'll move on to the next video. Maybe they'll forget her name tomorrow. But ask yourself, what if the next story we tell could save a life? What do you think could have saved Nucky? Tell us below. And if you believe that every voice deserves to be heard, then hit that subscribe button right now. Because subscribing isn't just about supporting this channel, it's about making sure these stories don't disappear. Because the next story we tell might be the one that makes you stop scrolling and finally start listening.